The hour 10:15 have arrived. We'll call the House Tax Committee to order when we have a quorum. We'll start out with House File 4190. If Representative Fischer could please come down. And before Representative Fischer starts, and of course we won't officially call the meeting to order until we have a quorum, is there anyone in the audience who wants to testify on behalf of the Representative Fischer's bill with concerns? Would the department like to make comment?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, welcome to the committee, sir. And again, we will start to hear your bill. We'll officially take no action once we have a quorum because we lay them over. So, to your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. I appreciate the opportunity to present the bill. This bill is an idea that came to me from some folks who live in one of the cities that I represent. What this bill would allow is a tax credit for mechanical insulation improvements that exceed the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineering standard. The credit is non-refundable and would apply to both the corporate, franchise, and individual income taxes. The insulation is a hidden view, which means it's normally out of mind. It's something that is harder for people to get a handle on. Because it's out of sight, it's out of mind. And this is a process that when people do these kind of projects, they find out that there are savings that they do realize in the long term, but it's a savings that is something that you're not able to afford all at one time. It's savings that are spread over the years. And so as a result, many times when people do the improvements, they have trouble affording them right off the bat, even though they know they could get savings each year afterwards. And particularly when you've got small businesses and homes where people are dealing with helping pay their kids' schooling, tuition, meeting the bills on the table, insulation is something that gets missed a lot of times because it's out of sight, out of mind. And this is one way to help move that up. Many of us are familiar with the idea of saving energy costs through updating incandescent lights, newer technology like LEDs. The reality is that updating insulation, especially damaged or compromised materials, has been shown to save even more, and its impact begins the moment that it is installed. Additionally, the savings from better insulated environment extend beyond the reduced energy and fuel cost. It helps reduce overall use. Improving insulation also dramatically cuts down on wear and tear on equipment like pumps, boilers, air C units, fans, coils, etc. Anyone that's experienced significant repairs on heating or air conditioning equipment knows that it's not a low-cost issue when you have to replace and repair items. And by improving your insulation, it extends the life of your equipment. Members, this is a proposal that will help bring real savings to Minnesota homeowners and businesses, and a tax credit is a smart way to incentivize these insulation improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Fischer. We do have a quorum. I'll officially call the meeting of the House Tax Committee to order. Representative Schultz moves the minutes of Thursday, March 29th, 2018. Any additions or corrections? We probably should amend them to say, go dogs, huh?
Mm-hmm. We should.
Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. Item next, I will move Representative Fischer's bill, House File 4190, discussion from members. Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative. Would this be sales tax exemption for things also like the blankets used to put around water heaters and things like that as well, or is this more of a permanent style of insulation, et cetera?
Representative Fischer.
For that one, I've got a phone. Can I have a phone a friend here,
phone a
please?
friend, yes.
Thank you.
Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Eric Howski. I'm the Apprenticeship Coordinator, Training Director for the Heat and Frost Insulators and Allied Workers Local 34, based out of St. Paul here. We have about 600 members applying insulation in the state of Minnesota.
Welcome to the committee, sir. Would you like Representative Petersburg to repeat the question, or did you hear it?
I did hear the question. As to the specific whether water heaters would be covered, I'm not sure, and I would like to refer that back to the bill people. As far as what the intention is on commercial. I was general foreman at the University of Minnesota, and how I explained it is it put money back into the University of Minnesota's pocket, and for things such as computers and teachers, buildings, stuff. The return on investment typically is a short window where you're paying for the labor, the material, and you're putting money back in the end user's pocket, and that's specifically what this bill addresses. As far as water heater, I believe so, but I wouldn't say 100%. So I'd like to refer that to the.
Maybe we'll go to Mr. Williams or Mr. Michael. Mr. Michael, to the Petersburg question.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Petersburg, if you look on the bill on page 2, lines 2.9 to 2.11, is the definition of the types of mechanical insulation that qualifies. And it's not crystal clear to me as a somebody who's not expert in this, whether, you know, hot water that's not for heating qualifies. I'm guessing that it does, but it says that it applies to heating, venting, and air conditioning applications. Obviously, you're heating the water, but I don't know if that heating means like space heating rather than water heating. I'm guessing that it would apply, but not absolutely.
And I've always wondered why we have hot water heaters. I'm not sure why you're heating hot water. Just a thought. Representative Petersburg.
That's the same as unthawing things. So that was my question too, is because I think that there is, that was my one concern that I saw as a red flag, is that it did seem like it was a little bit ambiguous as to exactly what it actually meant, as to what was being covered and what isn't, which makes it difficult for the department and others, even retailers, to know, well, does this, is this included or is this not? And so, I mean, that was just something for you to think about in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Other questions of the author? Chair Erickson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just wondering, Representative Fischer, do you know if there's a definition someplace for mechanical insulation property where all of this might be delineated?
Representative Fischer?
To be truthful for the definition, I am not sure. I would first punt to see if there is anywhere in statute that is currently spelled out.
Mr. Michael?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Erickson, the definition is basically spelled out in the bill. And so I don't think you would say that somehow any of these other terms that are included in the definition, maybe there's a place else in the statutes that those things are defined. I honestly don't know, but you would look to the bill itself to determine what mechanical insulation property is. You would not start looking elsewhere in the statute to see if there's a separate definition of mechanical insulation property that you rely on, because this is the definition that will govern. And so if you want to make it more expansive or narrower, you need to change the language in the bill. That would be my advice.
Yes.
Chair Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Michael, because I think that's what we'd have to do if we went forward with this. So there wouldn't be, as Representative Petersburg said, ambiguity. And we're famous for ambiguity.
Any other questions? Would you like to wrap it up, Representative Fischer?
First of all, I would like to thank the committee for the opportunity to present the bill. I believe it's a good bill, and I hope you keep it in consideration for your final tax bill, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Fischer. I will renew my motion that House File 4190 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus tax bill. Thank you, Representative Fischer, and to the witness. Item next, we will go to Chair Loon's bill. Chair Loon will move House File 3853. And Chair Loon, is the A4 amendment yours?
It is, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any discussion on the A4 amendment? Okay, so Representative Loon moves the HF 3853. Representative Loon moves the H3853 A4 amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails. We now have the bill as amended before us. I see that we have several folks who would like to testify on the bill. Claire Sanford, Karen DeVos, Trinette Potts. Is there anyone else wish to testify for the bill with concerns? The department?
Not at this time.
Okay, with that, to your bill as amended, Representative Loon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. This bill is trying to provide sort of a creative solution to help get at the childcare crisis that we have here in Minnesota. It's something that we hear a lot about. We have spent some time trying to determine its causes and try to address or provide some solutions. We actually have a subcommittee on childcare access and affordability that has been started here within this body. And there's a bipartisan, bicameral task force on childcare. The OLA is currently working on a report that will be released towards the end of April on early childhood funding and programs in our states. So it's something that we spent a lot of time looking at. But what we know is that there is a shortage of quality childcare settings throughout the state of Minnesota, most critically, I think, in greater Minnesota. We have fewer workers employed in that very important line of work. And it's difficult for families to afford quality childcare. So the purpose of this bill is to try to, again, provide a sort of creative solution at trying to not only increase quality, but increase access and affordability for good quality early childhood learning. And why is it important? I think, first of all, it's important to establish that, as a society, making sure, as we have many families in Minnesota where both parents work, or single family households with children where their parents work, and where their children are during those settings is critically important. 90% of all brain development is completed by age 5 and 80% by age 3. And so those early years are critical. And we know if children are in quality settings, that they are come into kindergarten really ready to learn, ready to be successful, and we close that achievement gap that we have been trying to get our arms around here. So the package before you is really kind of a series of tax credits aimed first at parents, credits to help offset the cost of tuition or the cost of having their children in a quality childcare setting. And I would say that when I say quality, this is all keyed off of the parent aware ratings that we have for settings. So that's a 1 to 4 star setting, with 4 being the highest, and a way to encourage more providers to obtain that quality rating, or to increase their rating to hopefully to 4 stars over time. So parents would get a credit. Businesses would receive credit if they provide child care for their employees' children, or support their employees in getting child care of a quality nature. They would receive credits. Child care professionals would receive credits linking to their individual educational attainment. Again, we can track also that quality is improved when child care professionals receive more professional development and training to be highly skilled in the very important work they do. And finally, for owners and operators of child care and early childhood learning, they would link credits to the number of low-income children that they serve. I know for some operators, a lot of times, whether it's CCAP or other dollars, there's a gap in the types of funding through those programs that would cover children and the cost of that care. So this would help a bit by giving them a credit for taking more low-income children, who, again, I think benefit very greatly from these programs, and perhaps disproportionately so. So we are trying to help boost the wages of child care employees through this tax credits, and again, trying to get them to increase their professional development and educational attainment. So this bill is modeled after a bill that was produced in the state of Louisiana, has gotten great accolades, and has really been held up as a national model. The states of South Carolina and Nebraska have followed suit. And so with that, Claire Sanford with the Minnesota Child Care Association is here to tell you a little bit more about the proposal.
Okay, and before we go to Ms. Sanford, if you look in your packets for the Loon bill, the top insert here, if you will, should be for the next bill.
Yes.
That should be for the Hertaus bill, so if you put that there. And then I generally like to know where things are coming from. And so the next 4 items are from Chair Loon, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so the next 4 items in your packet are from Chair Loon. So, okay, welcome committee. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Claire Sanford, and I represent the Minnesota Child Care Association, a statewide association of about 250 licensed child care centers. And as long as we're digging through packets, I've got some housekeeping, too, on the papers. I don't know if it's the same in the member packets as it is out here, but the handout titled Louisiana School Readiness Tax Credits, at least on the handout out here, is missing the last page. And then the one entitled Executive Summary is missing the middle page. That should be a 3-page executive summary. We're missing page 3. So I just want people to know there's more there, and if we need to get it to you in a different form after committee or something, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. So we can get them, the corrected ones are on the table?
No, I picked these up from here. I'm not sure if they're correct in your packets or not.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's proceed, please.
Okay. And the last thing I wanted to point out on the House Research Bill Summary, at the top of page 3, there is a typo. The very first bullet point at the top of page 3 says career lattice step level equivalent to a child development associate. That's a repeat of an earlier bullet. That should be bachelor's degree. Instead of child development associate, that should say bachelor's degree, and the credit should be $2,000, not $500.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I was going to mention that. Okay, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Chair Loon, for your leadership on this bill, and not just on this, but for all things early childhood in Minnesota. Chair Loon has been such an incredible champion for young children and those who serve them in this state and their parents. And
Excuse me, members, my phone is off. I think I need a new phone. Fake news. Fake news. It's the Russian. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to shut this baby all the way down. I think you can do that. Slide power off. I apologize,
Chairman,
but it's off.
Just when I was chairing a committee a few years ago, I announced to the committee for everybody to be sure to turn their phones off. A few minutes later, guess whose phone went off? The chair.
Happens to the
You
best
have it
of
on
us.
vibrate with the ringer maybe on.
Well,
just
it's off now. Throw it in the sink. Oh, okay. Please continue. That will not happen again from me.
excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'll wait for everyone else's phone to go off. Not a problem at all. What was I going to say? Oh, sorry. Thank you. I was just starting. So I'm a former elementary school teacher in a low-income public school, and I've dedicated my entire career to being an early childhood advocate because of what I experienced as a teacher in a low-income school, and also all of the incredible neuroscience and economic research around early childhood. And I just have to say, it is so exciting to be in the tax committee. I kind of hang out in HHS and education, so I kind of feel like I've been let out of a cage, and now I'm here with all of you. It's very exciting. So, why are we here? Chair Loon teed that up for us. We know we have a child care crisis in Minnesota, and we need high-quality child care, but it can't exist in its current market-based financing system. There's just too much instability and financial stress. Public policy plays a really critical role in this industry. Parents can't pay more for child care, but providers can't make less, and there's a real disconnect for a lot of people. Why are we paying so much for child care, but child care providers are making close to minimum wage, sometimes even below that? In a majority of states, full-time center-based child care costs more than tuition at the state's public university. And it's not unusual, particularly if you have more than one child, for your child care expenses to be $20,000 to $30,000 a year, which is a big hit for anyone, even people making good incomes. And we know that child care can't just be a place to park the kids while parents go to work or school. As Chair Loon mentioned, We know now that 90% of brain development happens by age 5, 80% by age 3. Infants and toddlers are hugely important. And all later outcomes are related to what goes on in those early childhood years. So we know we have to have high quality childcare available to parents. And high quality early childhood programs are the only kind that provide the significant return on investment, particularly for low income children. Whenever you hear the economists talk about the huge returns on early childhood, those are only with very high quality programs. We can't provide those high quality programs and what kids and families need without significant change to the early childhood workforce. We need skilled and educated professionals to be doing this work. Yet we have huge challenges finding quality staff and being able to pay them enough to retain them. Our field faces very low wages. It's predominantly female, historically undervalued work. Ratios dictate costs, and it's hugely labor intensive. It costs a lot. You need a lot of people. There's a reason humans don't have litters of children. You know, we typically have 1 or maybe 2 babies at a time because human babies need so much more adult interaction and nurturing and care than most other mammals when they're born. And that's why we have the ratios we do in early childhood, because we know that to do this brain development, we need those low child-to-staff ratios. So that does increase labor costs. So in short, we need to attract, retain, help educate and compensate our professionals so that we can educate children and help others in the state of Minnesota attract and retain their employees. And as Chair Loon said, the mechanism we use to measure quality of early childhood programs in Minnesota is called Parent Aware. It's a 4-star rating system, 1 to 4, 4 being the highest. And at the end of 2016, about 22% of all eligible programs in Minnesota had some parent aware rating, and any type of program is eligible. Public school programs, Head Start, family child care, center-based child care, community preschools. If it's a licensed setting, they can all earn a parent aware rating. So we had about 22% of our eligible programs there. We can do a lot better to increase the number of quality providers available to children and families. And this package of tax credits is unique because each credit in it targets a different group of stakeholders, and all of those stakeholders have a role to play in addressing the high-quality child care needs. Parents who choose high-quality programs, staff working in those programs, owners and operators of those programs, and businesses who want to provide child care as a benefit to their employees. So this bill addresses both demand and supply and provides overlapping and mutually reinforcing benefits within the credits. And sorry, I feel like I keep saying, as Chair Loon mentioned, this is modeled after a package of credits in Louisiana that was implemented in 2008 and has been hugely successful. So why would we want to emulate the Louisiana model other than the fact that the National Governors Association told us to do so? You have another handout in your packets, it's many pages, which is a report just released about a month ago by the National Governors Association. And the NGA gave a grant to Minnesota to study the early childhood workforce and help figure out what do we need to do to address the child care crisis from the early childhood workforce standpoint. And they listed several recommendations. The #1 recommendation in that report from the National Governors Association is for Minnesota to look at a package just like this of the Louisiana tax credits because it's been so successful in Louisiana. It has achieved explosive results in a short period of time in Louisiana, and our child care industry needs a jolt, as do our parents, our employers, and our kids needing to be ready for school. The Louisiana model focuses on child care centers, but our bill is around child care centers and family child care homes. Minnesota is kind of unique in the country in the number of family child care homes we have across the state and the importance of that sector of the industry to our economy, particularly in greater Minnesota. So this bill addresses family child care and centers. In Louisiana, once this package of credits was implemented, the number of quality rated programs doubled in the first few years. And now they have 75% of all of their eligible early childhood programs with quality ratings. And again, Minnesota has closer to 22% right now. Louisiana also saw an increase in the number of low-income children receiving child care assistance who were served in higher quality rated programs after this credit was introduced. In Minnesota, currently about 1/3 of low-income children receiving CCAP are in high quality rated programs. And the percentage increases are just nuts in how popular the credit was. In the first 4 years of the credit in Louisiana, there was a 307% increase in owners of childcare facilities claiming the credit. And to claim that credit, they had to have a quality rating, but they also had to be serving low-income kids. So there's a big increase there. There was a 250% increase in teachers and directors and other childcare staff who were claiming the credit. And the average credit that those staff earned was equal to about 1 month's average wages. So that is hugely, for low wage, people in a low wage profession, that kind of economic benefit is huge. And the increase of people getting degrees in early childhood, associates or bachelors, had an 8-fold increase, and that's directly linked to child outcomes. There was also a 176% increase in parents who claimed the credit because they had more access to high-quality programs. And the credits have been so successful in Louisiana that actually the state went through big budget scrutiny in 2016 and kind of did a review of all of the tax credits they were providing. And many were on the chopping block, and they chose to keep the package of school readiness tax credits because of what it's done for school readiness and access to quality in their economy. So in conclusion, this package is called the school readiness tax credits. It's not called the daycare credits. Days take care of themselves. We take care of children. It's not called the child care credit either. It's called the school readiness tax credit because it's so much more important than that. We know that if this is tied to quality and encouraging all these stakeholders to move up the quality ladder, it's a true investment in the workforce of today and in the preparation of kids and our workforce for tomorrow. And Minnesota has a chance to still be an early adopter of this effective and innovative strategy. Thank you very much for considering it.
Questions for Ms. Sanford, Representative Schultz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few questions. The first one is for the quality rating. I understand how economic incentives work, but we're not providing I think an incentive for we're penalizing essentially the low quality parent aware programs because they get a slower tax benefit. And we're really heavily rewarding the high quality centers. So I think that, you know, it probably takes additional revenue to move up from a 1-star to a 4-star. And this tax benefit could give them maybe the additional revenue to invest to improve quality. So I would like the authors to maybe consider initially at least, you know, making it more similar tax credit across the quality ratings so they have additional revenue to move up, because I'm assuming that we want them all to be 4 stars. And that would give them additional revenue to move up to that quality rating if it does take additional revenue to improve quality, and I'm assuming that it does. And I'm also wondering, in Louisiana, is their quality rating very similar to the parent aware quality rating, and what are those differences?
Chair Loon, or?
I'll have Ms. Sanford comment on the Louisiana system, but you know, I think it's just to comment to your first suggestion. You know, I think it's something to look at, and I know, you know, in the education committee we've kind of struggled back and forth with. We want providers to get into the quality rating system, and obviously the goal would be to get them to move up. But the first step is trying to get providers into that quality rating system to agree, and because it's voluntary, obviously providers can decide to do it or not. If they are in the system, they are able to take children who receive scholarships, and they have to have a quality rating to do that. But the goal, again, is to make steps up on that increasing scale up to level 4. So whether we need to provide more incentives for that first star or not, I think is an interesting idea. So I'll think about that.
Ms. Sanford, to the Schultz question.
Mr. Chair, members, thank you very much. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in Louisiana's quality rating system as it compares to Minnesota, but in general, they are similar. They have similar requirements for moving through and demonstrating increased education and training of your staff members. They have increased, as you move up the stars, requirements for parent engagement, using developmentally appropriate curriculum and research-based assessments of children. And most importantly, I know Minnesota has a couple different, they're called pathways. We love the word pathways in Minnesota. Pathways to get to parent-aware ratings. Some of them involve an observation of your classroom by an outside observer and actually rating the classroom and giving you a score, and the score is correlated to research around outcomes for kids. In the Louisiana program, I believe all programs have to go through that independent observation, and they have to do it 3 times. In Minnesota, I think it's just once. But in Louisiana, they do 3 observations, and then I think they average the scores. So if anything, the Louisiana model might even be a little more rigorous in that sense.
Representative Schultz.
One more follow-up. Thank you, Chair Davids. In the Louisiana bill, did they structure the credit similarly, that lower star quality rated facilities get less of a tax benefit?
Ms. Sanford.
Mr. Chair, Representative, yes, they did.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Schultz. Chair Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I apologize, I came in late. Tell me how this would apply to in-home childcare providers. How would they be able to access any of these credits? Because as I understand it, the quality rating system has been challenging for them to participate in the Parent Aware program. At least that's the feedback that I've gotten from my in-home childcare providers. So how would that work?
Ms. Sanford.
Mr. Chair, Representative, there are 2 ways in which family child care providers can take advantage of the credits in this bill. They have to choose one or the other. They can't do both. But there are 2 ways family child care can benefit here. One is through the owner-operator credit. So if you're a family child care provider, you're operating your own small business. And the way the credit is structured here for an owner or an operator is based on the star rating of your, based on the level of your quality rating and the number of children using child care assistance or in foster care that you serve. So it's an amalgamation of your quality rating level and the number of low-income children you serve. You get increasing tax credits based on that, but not everyone serves low-income families. And right now, we really only have financial incentives in our Parent Aware system for serving low-income families. Both scholarships and child care assistance have higher financial incentives if you are serving low-income families. And those providers not serving low-income families don't necessarily have that financial incentive to enter the quality rating system and achieve a rating. So this is one way for family child care providers to do it. The other way, if those family child care providers don't serve any low-income children, instead of taking the owner-operator credit, they could take the staff credit because they are the lead teacher in their program. So based on the rating of their program and their individual level of education, they could get a credit against their personal income taxes. So they would choose between those 2.
Chair Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Loon, I know that you've worked really hard on the whole rating system and so forth. Can you tell me how we've made the Parent Aware more easy for in-home child care providers to participate in?
Representative Loon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Anderson. You know, I think that is still a work in progress. I know what we are, have been, one of the things we did in the education bill last year, there was a requirement that you had to be 3 or 4 star rated to get, to be able to serve scholarship children. And that was a pretty fast ramp up because not all areas of the state received sort of the scholarships and the infrastructure for that to happen at the same time. And so for some of those regions of the state that got it last, there was a very short period of time for them to become 3 or 4 star. So we stretched that out, and so now you could be 1 star and still receive scholarship children with, again, the encouragement to get more providers into the system. So at least parents will have a range of choices because in some areas you may only have 1 provider it's got a star rating in their area. So I still think we've got a ways to go. As Ms. Stanford mentioned, it's only 22% of all providers that have a quality rating right now. So we definitely have work to do.
Chair Anderson. Representative Grunhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thanks for bringing this bill forward. It definitely highlights a severe crisis in my district, which is a rural district. And I even had one small community have a special community meeting to try to address the crisis of daycare for the children. For whatever reason, we have more and more daycare providers seem to leave the businesses than entering. There might be additional reasons. But, you know, one of the things I've seen is in my district is we've had a church step up and buy a closed child care facility that was not on their property and was not connected to the church. And they were assessed property taxes of about $8,000 for doing something like that, which, of course, they have to pass on to the children. So I see you have a credit for businesses who build or renovate a child care facility. Well, that's exactly what they did. But I don't think it would apply to nonprofits or I think it's 503C if I remember right. But, you know, to me, nonprofits or churches would be an excellent way to expand daycare if we would help them with their facility. And I don't know if that's something that could be included, or is there anything in here that would help a nonprofit like a church that decides to offer something like that in terms of a credit? The way I read it, I don't see that.
Representative Loon?
Mr. Chair, I would defer to nonpartisan. I guess I wouldn't know in that specific instance how that could work.
Mr. Williams?
Mr. Chair, Representative Gruenhagen, so a nonprofit facility would not qualify for the credit for businesses that build or renovate or sort of pay for their employees' child care, but employees of that child care center would be eligible for the third credit in the bill for individuals that are employees, and then people who send their children to that facility, if it was parent-aware rated, would be eligible for the credit sort of against their payments of child care services.
Representative Gruenhagen?
Oh, just final comment is maybe it's an area we could look at down the road, because I think there's a lot of churches out there would be willing to offer this type of service if they wouldn't be penalized with property taxes for doing so. And of course, we know that has to be passed on to the cost of the children. So, all right, thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Representative Gruenhagen. Representative Loeffler?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and this is a big issue for our state, and I appreciate your leadership on trying to find ways to deal with it. Representative Loon, I spend more time in the Human Services Committee, and I'm not on education, as you know, and it feels to me like this is a project that's probably would be great for us to consider a few years down the line when we've actually dealt with some of the much more pressing issues in this area. Because we don't have a stable system that's accessible to families and then trying to move them up. We instead have a system where we have an incredible shortage of child care providers across the state. To get into the Parent Aware program is really expensive. As Representative Anderson has pointed out, it's really a challenge for many providers to get themselves or their employees through the training programs to get stars. And if you're working in childcare and you're working 11-hour days, you can't go to classes at night. You know, I mean, you usually have your own family to take care of. We haven't developed online training. We haven't developed the infrastructure to really get them through, let alone affordable scholarships for the workers. And so the reality is that, I mean, the last time I looked, and this is some time ago, if I had a scholarship in my area, there was almost nothing that would be available for me and my child. And I know the problem's even worse in rural Minnesota. In child care assistance, we have 2,400 families on the waiting list to get, and many of them wait over a year to get any kind of sliding fee assistance. And so those kids, I've always wanted the university to do a study, what's happening to those kids when they can't get affordable child care at all, and they have to be very low income to qualify. And so to me, if we're going to spend $100 million, I'd first try and get rid of the waiting list. I'd try and provide total scholarships to getting workforce people into programs, because tax credits don't work if you're living paycheck to paycheck, which is what most of our child care workers do. They can't wait to get it back after they've filed their taxes after the end of the year. That's just not a good solution. And our pay scales are so low in this industry that none of them are above paycheck to paycheck unless they're in an advantage program. And the scholarship program, I think, began with really good intentions, but the reality is for lowest income families, it will not cover a year of care. And so they can't take advantage of it even if they qualified, because it isn't sliding fee, it isn't year-round eligibility. They can use up their scholarship before they get to the end of the first year. And so I really feel like I like this concept, but I feel like you're ahead of where the service system is right now. And if I had my priorities, I'd put it into those thousands of families on the waiting list, and making the scholarship program sliding fee so that it can actually meet the needs of low-income families, and increase our reimbursement rates, which now I think are less than 25% of the median market. So it's hard to get people to take subsidized children when the reimbursement is that low. So I don't want to discourage you, but I want to say right now, I think we have to worry more about those 2,400 families that are eligible, that are waiting almost a year to get into anything, and look at some real full scholarships for those low-income workers getting into the workforce training programs that you're trying to incent. But I'm glad to hear that you have a subcommittee working on figuring out how to do this and looking at all kinds of different ways to do it.
Any comments, Representative Loon?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Loeffler. You know, I think you raised some really good points. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that we could look at doing, and I think certainly the reimbursement rate and the CCAP rate is very low and doesn't provide low-income families with many options. And I think the scholarship comment is one. I think we could do more with scholarships, but I think, again, the other I guess point I'm trying to get at with this bill is that you need to do something to incent the marketplace to step in as well. We could provide scholarships and that, but we still have a problem with the number of providers, and doing something to try to incent, whether it's employers stepping in to help provide more of a benefit to their employees for the cost of childcare, and helping that be paired with quality, or some of the other ideas in this bill. I think we need to do something to get the marketplace kind of energized, if you will, or ready to step up to meet the needs of Minnesota families, which we're just not doing right now.
Representative Loeffler?
No, I appreciate that. It's a really tough issue, and it's going to take big money, like the kind of money in this bill, to make it move forward. I just feel like we've got to deal with some of the basic foundational pieces maybe before we go to this much in incentives.
Okay. Chair Marquardt?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And in my neck of the woods, we're losing some daycare providers, and a lot of it's regulations, but this certainly, would help. And I like the idea of rewarding the 3- and 4-star parent aware, because that's where we want to go. My concern right now is, and maybe some of the other legislators have mentioned this, is kind of, it seems to be rewarding the 3 and 4 stars, which is good, and they're going to continue, but I don't know if there's enough help here for kind of these areas that have low access to 3 and 4 stars, like in rural Minnesota right now, where there aren't a lot. And so I mean, I just don't know if this is going to, looks to me, it could exasperate. You already have people who have access to good 3 and 4, and they're going to benefit, and the other ones aren't. And I don't know if this is going to bring it up or actually divide it. And so, I mean, what are the efforts right now, especially out in rural Minnesota, but around the state, to move the people to 3 and 4 stars? I mean, that's where I'd like to see a real effort being made right now. And then would you happen to know, out of the spending, what % would be metro and what % would go to rural? Because I just have a feeling that in rural areas, there just are not a lot of 3 and 4 stars as compared to the metro, but I might be wrong on that. So would you happen to have a breakout as far as, of the 90 million, what amount initially would go to metro versus rural? And then what are you doing to try to build up the 1 and 2 stars that get them to 3 and 4 stars?
Chair Loon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Marquardt. I'll have Ms. Sanford address some of that, but again, as I commented before, I think we need to do more to incent providers in the rural areas to get into the star rating program. This has been sort of a long-standing or a continual push to try to get more providers in, and I think first it was availability of scholarships and whether it was worth their time to get in, if there was going to be scholarship families available, because that was the only incentive for the quality rating system. And so I think that's one thing, and the other is Representative Loeffler highlighted. And then as we've just had more and more providers, especially home-based providers, just get out of the business. And so getting people to start up a business is just very difficult because the hours are long, the pay is pretty low. And so it's a combination of those factors. So I'm not sure how we do that. We've done some other things through deed to provide some incentives for child care providers through grants and that through deed, through some of the budget funding that we did last year. I don't know if some of that is being contemplated for supplemental or not, but I think there's some other things we could do to try to get some of the new facilities or providers, home-based providers, up and running. And I'll let Ms. Sanford add anything she'd like
Ms.
to.
Sanford, Chair Marquardt's question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Really quick answer for your question about metro versus rural.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Well,
It would
clears
be-
that up.
There you go. It would be good to know. I mean, those are the kind of things, obviously, we want to know when implementing policy. And I don't know who would figure that out, but I would like to know that as well. And in terms of what else is going on in the state to incent more people to get into the quality rating system and move along the stars, I just want to say, totally agree with everything. This is not a panacea. We couldn't just do this and solve the crisis. I mean, even the report that you have the executive summary of says very clearly, even though it's very glowing of what these tax credits have done in Louisiana, it says you can't do this alone. You have to have a robust child care assistance program. We have to be paying attention to regulations in Minnesota. We have to be paying attention to the impact of what universal pre-K could do to the child care market. Any one of those things won't be enough. We have to be looking at all those things together, and we have to do more than one thing. So I couldn't agree more with all of that stuff. In terms of incentivizing people to get into Parent Aware, as Chair Loon mentioned, a few years ago, you did have to be 3 or 4 star rated to accept scholarships. And a lot of people said, I'm not going to enter Parent Aware because it seems like a really long jump to go from 0 stars to 3 right off the bat. That seems like a lot of work I have to do and some financial outlay before I can even get to that financial incentive. So the law was changed to go back to something more like this bill, where it says now you can be any star rating up until the year 2020, so that people who earn 1 star and want to move to the 2nd star and the 3rd star do have some access to those financial incentives. I can't remember what we're doing with CCAP differentiated reimbursement. I know it's highest for 3 and 4 star. We used to differentiate reimbursement for 1 and 2 star as well, although I'm not sure if we discontinued that or not, so I don't want to say something incorrect. But those efforts are ongoing. But again, they're only if you serve low-income kids can you get those financial incentives. And that's why in this bill, one of the credits is tied to how many low-income kids you serve, but most of them are not. So everybody, whether they're in a community that serves low-income children or not, can benefit from these financial incentives.
Chair Marquardt. Okay, Representative Wills, and then we'll go on to Ms. DeVos and Ms. Potts. Representative Wills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Loon, for working on this. And I just spoke with a friend of mine who is an in-home child care provider, and she is seriously considering going to unlicensed and just caring for one family because she can't keep up with the paperwork and regulations, so it is a concern. And we need to work on that front as well. But I just wanted to briefly respond to Representative Marquardt's question about the rural versus metro. And if in my looking at the bill, and maybe staff can correct, it doesn't seem there's anything that creates any kind of differentiation or percentage based on geographic area. And I don't think we would want to do that, because I think we would, if we moved forward with this language, we would want to make sure that the credits were available where the need is, not an arbitrary location. So just a thought.
Any other comments? Chair Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Sanford, would it not be prudent for DHS to offer an online course free of charge, because this is such an important issue to providers, so that they could move up in the star rating? Because I know there must be the way to develop an online course to help them move to that higher rating. Would that not be a prudent idea?
Ms. Sanford.
Mr. Chair, Representative Erickson, in the early childhood world, access to free and low-cost training is huge, no matter where it comes from, whether it's DHS or someone else. Mm-hmm. In order to qualify for Parent Aware ratings, the training has to be approved by Parent Aware, and it can be approved if it comes from companies, individual trainers, anyone can submit training to have it approved. And it would definitely, and this is something I know DHS and the Parent Aware System is working on, we do need more online training available, especially for greater Minnesota, because when you have to travel great distances and there just aren't as many trainers in those areas, in order to get the specific training, it's very specific training you need to get to move through the Parent Aware rating levels, and we do need more of that online and easily accessible to our providers.
Chair.
And Mr. Chair and Ms. Sanford, the reason I bring it up is DHS sets the regulations, which, as you heard Representative Wills and others say, is a barrier. Representative Marquardt noted it. It certainly is hurting us in rural Minnesota. So they should be, I think, a prime mover in this effort so that we are able to provide the quality that we're seeking and also keep providers at work in especially rural Minnesota because they have access to something that can really help them. So I think we should encourage DHS in that direction.
Thank you, Chair Erickson. Okay, any other questions for Ms. Sanford? Otherwise, thank you very much, Ms. Sanford. We'll now go to Ms. DeVos and then Ms. Potts. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Karen DeVos. I live in Ada, Minnesota. I own Little Learners Early Childhood Center. I also serve as director and teach preschool there.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you so much. Little Learners is a parent-aware rated center. We are the only center in Norman County. We are located on the same campus as a nursing home and assisted living facility. We are fortunate to be able to partner with the nursing home to provide extended hour care and discounts for their employees, as well as work with their activities department to be able to enjoy intergenerational experiences with their residents on a daily basis. It is a blessing to have the opportunity to watch those relationships and the people of both communities thrive. Little Learners is located in a small rural community, and the market does not allow for us to charge what it truly costs to run a business such as ours. Our teachers do not earn what they deserve. They work long hours for little pay and limited benefits. As a center, we barely break even every month, with the majority of our income going right back into employee wages, food costs, and training and education fees. Like most who work in early childhood, we are not in this business to become rich, but rather to change our world by helping to grow and educate the amazing little people that we are blessed to work with every day. The tax credits that have been proposed in this bill would help in every facet of our business. Credits for our teachers would put dollars directly into their pockets, enabling them to be able to continue their very important work and encouraging them to also continue their learning so they can be the very best teachers. Tax credits for parents would encourage families to seek out quality care and education for their children, as well as help them with the rising costs of childcare. Tax credits for business partners could potentially encourage communities to look at these types of partnerships and effect change in the ever-growing childcare crisis. And tax credits for early childhood providers will not only encourage those providing care and education to maintain high levels of quality, but could also help in the budget to provide a more livable wage for those working directly with our children. For my center, those credits would go right back into the pockets of teachers to increase wages and to reduce the child-to-staff ratios. I just want to share that I left Ada at 5:30 this morning to be here today. As soon as I'm finished testifying and I'm done with the hearing today, I'm heading right back home where I will close the center for the day.
Who said you're getting done today?
Now you sound like my husband. He says it's never a guarantee. I should not be here today. We had an extremely emotional day at our center yesterday. I've been doing this business for 20 years, working in center care and in family child care. And for only the second time in the 20 years that I've been doing this, we had to let go of a child yesterday due to behavior concerns. This little girl has been in foster care for the last 8 months. She was placed with us a week after entering foster care. 2 months ago, she found out that she was no longer going to be able to go back to her biological family's home. That led to a lot of behavior issues, and we had to bring on another teacher specifically for her. We do not have it in our budget to provide an extra teacher long term. And so yesterday, we had to say goodbye to this little girl who did not choose this situation, who is brilliant and so loving, and who is going to go a long way, but unfortunately not with our help. These credits could make all the difference for kids like this. We serve 18 children who are on child care assistance or scholarships. We're licensed for 39. It was not an easy process to get Parent Aware rated. We started at a 1-star, we built our way up. We did it with the grants that are made available through Parent Aware. They have building quality grants that help provide education for my staff. They help purchase new supplies and toys for our center. That funding is available if you are willing to utilize it. We do see, I think I'm only one of 2 or 3 Parent Aware rated facilities, including family child care in our county. I really truly don't believe that that's because it's too expensive or it's too difficult. I think it's because they don't need to. There's a demand, and to go through the extra work is a little bit, it's not really necessary. I really want to encourage you guys to take a good, strong look, not only at this bill, which I think is amazing and can really help a lot of different areas, but also to look at early childhood as a whole. All of the statements that were made here today are important. A huge push needs to be made to change where our state is going, and I really think that we can do it, and I really believe that this tax credit bill is a start. Thank you so much.
Thank you. How far is Ada from Dilworth?
From Dilworth, about 37 miles. Depends on
38 miles, yeah.
Is
depends
Ada
on how
Borup
fast I
in the
drive.
Same conference as Dilworth?
No.
Different
third
conference?
class down.
Yep, different class.
Oh, different class.
Yep.
Isn't Ada like Borup, the Wildcats? Cougars.
Ada Borup Cougars. We are amazing girls basketball team. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, let's focus, Greg. Okay, Representative Marquardt.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Ms. DeVos, for traveling.
Good morning.
Traveling from Ada, so it is quite a jaunt. So it's appreciate you being here. But thank you for your testimony, because I think you're talking about the only daycare center in Norman County, and you said what, 2 or 3 possibly at the Star Aware rating, something
That are
like
star rated in the entire county.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it really illustrates kind of the concerns is, and something like this can only help, but it's a much larger concern, just the shortage of those that would be able to get to the 3- and 4-star rating. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. And, when we've just kind of, I know there's task force out there and we're looking at regulations and the whole works, but it's becoming a crisis, the shortages of daycare. And to see good ones like yours, Ms. DeVos, is great to see out in rural Minnesota, but it's sometimes far and few between. And we're losing them more than gaining them. And so whatever we can do. And so, I mean, something like this would certainly help as part of the problem. But thank you again for coming down from Ada.
Thank you.
Questions for Ms. DeVos? Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming down from Ada. Okay, let's go to Ms. Potts. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Trinette Potts. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. My name is Trinette Potts. I am a formal, thank you, Parent Aware rated family child care provider and an early childhood educator. And just coming to give my testimony or to speak on the tax credit in this bill and how important it would be for family child care providers.
Okay.
Okay. This bill would mean a lot, not just in actual income or economics to providers, but also knowing that this comes from our government, from our state, recognizing the work that we do is really important to family providers. It's a moral boost in the work that we do. Sometimes we feel undervalued, unappreciated, But knowing that our state and our government really recognizes the importance of the work that we do and that you would support a bill like this to help us is greatly appreciated. Wages are low in the childcare industry, and it's a main driver why people either leave the industry or not come into it. Providers are committed to serving low-income families. We face multiple barriers in generating more income. I remember taking a class when I was doing family child care, and they wanted us to compare and get rates. And so we had to go and find out what rates were in other communities and then what the reimbursement rate was. And then they tell you, you know, set your own rates. And my family child care was in North Minneapolis. And in order for me to set my rates where I wanted them to, I had to reconsider, because parents in my community, majority of them, probably 90%, if not 95%, were on child care assistance. And so asking them to pay the rates that I would prefer to be reimbursed was not a reality, because that would mean that they would have to come out of pocket to pay the difference between what I charged and what the reimbursement rates were from the state or from the county. And so that's often difficult for families to do. And so then as providers, you're often limited to setting your reimbursement rates to what the CCAP rates are. So the parents in my community, they can't afford to pay more. So this tax credit bill would really help. Most of the parents, like I said, use child care assistance, and they can't afford to pay anything beyond their reimbursement rate. I wanted to charge more, but I couldn't. And in the community I serve, it's just not reasonable to do that. It's not a smart business move. My income was limited not by the quality that I provided to the family or the loyalty to my families, but it was due to the reimbursement rates, which are far too low. The credit in this bill would reward providers committed to educating children from low-income families. That would help immensely. Just knowing that at tax time there was an adjustment that would help me remain financially viable and able to serve my community. Many child care providers barely break even. Some pay themselves far below the minimum wage after expenses. When you're in a tenable economic situation, any surprise could be a huge setback. In family child care, you're sometimes hit with things that any homeowner would be hit with, but it just doesn't affect your family. It also affects the children and families that you serve. There was a time when I was in child care that my basement flooded due to a flood that we had. And so when it flooded, my sub pump failed. So I had to get my sub pump replaced. I had to get some drying equipment to dry the basement and tons of other work that needed to be done. For me, I had to make a decision what to do. At that time, because it wasn't just myself that was hit with that same flood, but many providers were, they created an emergency grant to help fix that. But had that emergency grant not been there, that would have been a huge setback for me. There are things that happen as a homeowner that sometimes you have no control over, and that you do have to fix those. So sometimes you have to worry, you know, do I put this on my credit card? Is this going to, you know, affect other areas of my life? Am I going to have to now try to raise rates, which in my situation you can't, so you wonder what you're going to do. So sometimes hard decisions have to be made when you're a family child care provider. Knowing that there's a little extra help available at tax time, that would make take some of the anxiety out of the moment. I love the fact that this bill also provides incentives for child care professionals to further their education and then reward them for doing so. These additional funds could help take the edge off when people are contemplating furthering their education for this career or abandoning it altogether for something else. It could also help people see that while there may be another job for $1 more an hour, they could also stay in this career that they love and recoup the cost at the end of the year through taxes. Our field is consistently losing providers to jobs requiring less education and skill due to wages. This could help stop that flow. I personally, when I was family child care provider, went through Parent to Wear, got Parent to Wear rated, started out with the 1-star. I do like the fact that Parent to Wear have the incentives in there. I did go back to school to further my education, ended up getting my associate's degree, and would love to continue my education. Because of that, I was able to become 4-star rated. And I like the fact that we do have programs and systems in place now through Parent-to-Aware to help providers get there. I hear a lot of talk today, and I wasn't aware of all the problems that we have in the rural areas. And I know that this one thing will not help cover the whole issue with the child care, but it is a beginning, it's a start. We had a staff meeting, and someone came to speak at our staff meeting to talk about what possible tax incentives could do. And the staff, after hearing what something like this could do for providers and professionals in our industry, they were all excited and all happy. So although it won't address every issue, it would help keep some of the people from leaving our field. Being in childcare, I have had teachers say, you know, I can't afford to stay here. I have to take a job. I have to feed my family. I have student loans, and this just isn't paying enough. But having something extra come in that could make or break a person or make that decision to stay in here in this field, and we do need people to stay.
Thank you very much, Ms. Potts. Any questions for Ms. Potts? Okay, then, Chair Loon, would like to wrap it up? Thank you, Ms. Potts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I think, you know, obviously kind of a large bill to think about in terms of just both the impact and potentially the cost of it. But I'd like to think it's a creative idea of trying to provide some possible solutions to help us increase the supply of quality childcare, help parents afford what is a very expensive thing when you've got young children, and also try to incent more people to stay in this really important field. We need it. Our economy needs it. Most people that are in the workforce, many of them have young children, and so it is very important that we address these needs. So with that, I just really appreciate the committee's interest. So.
Thank you very much. Chair Loon. Chair Loon renews her motion that House File 3853 as amended be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus tax bill. Thank you, Chair Loon. Item next and item last. Before we go to that, actually, let's look at tomorrow's meeting. Regular time, regular place. We have House File 1091, Representative Hanson's bill on Sunday liquor sales tax proceeds dedicated. Okay, so with that, members, we should have a handout. There was in the other packet, the United for Jobs. Representative Hertaus, welcome to your committee. Representative Hertaus moves House File 3811. And if you could please, now what I have here is I have to testify in this order, Ms. Kadoon, Ms. Madden, Ms. Larson, and Mr. Hickey. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on behalf of the bill with concerns on the bill? Would the department like to make any comments?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. And I've had a subcommittee working on how I address you, Mr. Cummings, after you say that you don't want to testify, because I don't want to say thank you, because I always appreciate your testimony. And Representative Petersburg, I think, had the biggest one, but duly noted. Duly noted, Mr. Cummings.
Mr. Chair, it's not that I don't want to testify, it's just not at this time.
Not at this time. Duly noted.
Duly noted.
Duly noted. Okay, so with that, Representative Hertaus moves House File 3811 to your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, it's just 5 days away from filing income taxes, and it's certainly not controversial to talk about reducing income taxes, I would hope. Anyway, House File 3811 is a proposition of that nature, is to, across the board, reduce individual income tax rates in Minnesota. Many of us remember not too long ago that during the great housing recession and kind of a economic recession, I, being a member of the real estate community and construction trades, had learned back before I was in the legislature that about roughly 20% of the state's revenues were attributable to construction-related activities. At that time, it was necessary, or so it seemed so, that the income tax rates were raised to help shore up the state budget. So what we have today in Minnesota is that Minnesota's top tier at 9.85% is the fourth highest in the nation. And interestingly, our lowest income tax rate is higher than the maximum rate in 23 other individual states. So what the proposal is to reduce each of the brackets by 1%. And currently, What we've seen also is a trajectory of people voting with their feet in Minnesota. And I think it's really incumbent upon us to start looking at this historic moment when the federal government has reformed our federal tax rates for us to consider doing so, and also in Minnesota. In 2014, there were about 2,358,000 filers in Minnesota. That number has continued to drop since then, and we've lost about 13,600 filers net. If you take the median income per household, which is $58,000, or if you take the mean income, which is about $75,000 per household, that means that we've lost more than $1 billion of taxable gross income, which is also revenue producing. A number of us have seen several reports of recent that have been produced by the Center for American Experiment that also indicate in other areas of our economy where when we inject more money into the private sector, in the approximate numbers of $1 billion, the resulting job effect that has, and also income effect. Now, although there is a fiscal note attached with this, and it has a heavy price tag, I do admit that, what it doesn't take into consideration is the additional income that potentially would be realized from injection of this additional money into the private sector. Reflecting again on where we were some 6 or 8 years ago, we have since shored up our budget reserves are at about $1.6 billion. The cash account has $300+ million in it, and at present our revenues over forecast are more than $600 million, or about $600 million over forecast to date. And I think today, April 10th, we'll probably see another revenue forecast, hopefully for Minnesota, that continues to be revenue over forecast and that we're in good fiscal shape. So I'm suggesting and give you just a little bit more information. As has been discussed before, when we started tax committee this year, we were looking at different ways that we can address the conformity issue. And we know that if we do nothing or simply just conform with the federal government, that it's going to be a net increase to Minnesota taxpayers. That number hasn't been fixed solidly, but I think we've been hearing around $400 to $500 million. So given the fiscal cost of this, if we consider what that number could be offset by the changes in federal law and the things we need to do, part of our discussions in this committee have centered really about wanting to do the greatest maximum effect for the greatest number of taxpayers. And so this is why I started thinking more closely about the individual income tax rates, how we can positively impact every taxpayer in Minnesota by considering reducing the rates. For example, we have 107,000 returns at the fourth tier that are paying $3.213 billion of state income tax. That's about 25%, Mr. Chair, of all of the revenue that's collected under the income tax scheme. In the third bracket, there's about 284,000 filers. That is $1.257 billion. In the second bracket, which is the the 7.05 bracket, there's about $4.632 billion. And in the lowest tax bracket, there's about 25% of our total income tax is collected at the 5.35% bracket. So all of that totals about $12.203 billion, and that is before tax credits and other rebates that are available in our tax code. So the bill suggests that we reduce the tiers by 1% each, and inasmuch as Minnesota likes to be progressive, I would point out that a 1% reduction at the first tier would be the largest reduction in taxes at about 18% of what is currently being paid. At the 7.05%, a 1% reduction would be about 14%. At the third tier, a 1% reduction would be about 12%. And at the fourth tier would be about a 10% reduction in the rates. So some of the disparities we do have, we've got about 14% of all of the filers are paying almost 40% of the state income tax. So I guess I would just point out that this is very scalable, and would hope that we could maybe lay this bill over for inclusion, and as we come to kind of a final plan in terms of how we're going to deal with the conformity issue and how we can mitigate an increase in taxes to Minnesota taxpayers, that we could use this bill and use the rate adjustments in a scalable manner to fit the checkbook that we might recommend. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd certainly welcome any of the testifiers who want to come down and talk.
Thank you, Representative Hertaus. We'll start out with Ms. Kadoon, Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, and then Ms. Nan Madden will be next. Ms. Madden is here? Okay, good. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Beth Kadoon. I represent the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. I'm also here representing the United for Jobs Coalition, so that was the handout you've referenced. On the back, it lists over 80 local chambers of commerce as well as business associations, and we are advocating to improve our business climate. One of our strong priorities, key priorities, is to enact pro-growth tax reforms. And what we continue to hear, and our focus is really seeing how we can improve our tax rates, both on the individual side and corporate rate. So we are very thankful for Representative Hertaus for bringing this bill forward. We think this is a very important thing for the tax committee to be considering. The success of our state does rely greatly on a strong and growing private sector. We have great businesses and job creators in Minnesota that are important assets to their communities as they contribute greatly as employers in charitable giving, as well as leadership in their local communities. They want to grow and invest in Minnesota, but we continue to hear from them that our Minnesota high tax rates are barriers to their ability to grow and invest in Minnesota. We believe it's extremely important to remove those barriers that negatively impact the ability to grow and invest in Minnesota, that hinder the ability to recruit and retain talent in Minnesota. One thing, as was mentioned, is we do believe federal tax conformity really provides this great opportunity this year to look how do we improve our tax rates. Because as you're considering and putting together an omnibus tax bill, and then looking to adopt these new federal tax definitions or moving Minnesota to a new federal adjusted gross income tax base that will broaden the tax base, that we believe is a great time to follow good tax policy principle, which is if you have a broader tax base, we should look to see how we can lower our tax rates. We believe that will obviously help us have a more competitive tax system and also minimize economic distortions that are caused from high tax rates. We do know that 1% rate reduction, as the revenue estimate shows, might be a bit of a stretch goal, but was as mentioned by Representative Hertaus, you can certainly do things that make it more scalable. You can phase in rate reductions, but what we think is important as you look to adopt these base broadeners is to see how Minnesota can get on a path of a more competitive tax system by lowering all Minnesota tax rates. I've also mentioned in the past in this committee, and you know this, that the individual income tax rate greatly impacts businesses. Over 90% of businesses are pass-through companies. That means they pay their taxes to the individual income tax code. Right now, the last data I had was that 56% of private sector employees are employed by Minnesota pass-through companies. And then the new change that happened at the federal level on the limit of the SALT deduction, the state and local tax deduction, that's no longer capped at the federal level, that will make Minnesota's high tax rates even more impactful on decision making for taxpayers. There's been studies that have looked at the impact on state taxes, and recent studies published by the National Bureau of Economic Research and Federal Reserve have found that the individual income tax affects both high-level talent in states, the ability to recruit and retain it, pass-through formation, so entrepreneurship, and employment levels at those firms. Other states are taking action. Most recently, as part of federal conformity bills, Kentucky has just reduced their rate, Georgia just reduced their rate, Idaho, just reduced their rates. And other states, such as our neighbor to the south, Iowa, is looking to reduce their corporate and individual income tax rates as well. So we strongly urge you to consider, as you're putting together your omnibus tax bill, to see how we can reduce these tax rates to help Minnesota be more pro-growth and we think better position ourselves for a strong and growing economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kadoun. Questions for Ms. Kadoun with the Chamber and the United for Jobs? Let's go to Ms. Madden then, and then next will be Ms. Larson and Mr. Hickey.
And Mr. Chair, just following up on some of the comments that Ms. Kadoun made, recently I looked at some demographics about the outward migration of Minnesotans, and I presumed incorrectly that it was just simply higher income earners that were leaving Minnesota. What I found in the distribution of our demographic and population is that it's somewhat equal. And if you think about the fact that Minnesota's rate is nearly double the highest rate in 23 other states, that is perhaps one of the causative reasons for many of our young college grads who are migrating and leaving the state, choosing to seek employment and grow their own wealth and prosperity in another area of the country. If you took a high-paying job, one of the STEM graduates, for example, from University of Minnesota, science or engineering technology, you take 5% of that income, that amounts to quite a bit of wealth over a lifetime. So these are really important decisions, as business also has to pay higher wages to recruit talent, as Ms. Kadoun mentioned, because of the net effect after taxes, what that means to the individual if you're going to try and relocate to Minnesota. With that, I'll yield to the next testifier.
And thank you very much. You know, it's been a fascinating meeting today. As I think it was Ms. Sanford said, it's exciting to come to taxes, and I feel that way every day. And but I've seen a bill today where we're trying to pattern ourselves after Louisiana. I've never seen that before. And we're talking about tax rates in India, which I thought was interesting. Now to bring us back into focus, we have Ms. Nan Madden. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please. No
Indiana.
pressure.
Indiana.
Oh, Indiana. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee. My name is Nan Madden. I'm director of the Minnesota Budget Project. Appreciate the opportunity to testify today with some concerns about House File 3811.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those concerns are that it provides the largest tax cuts to those with the highest income, so that would make our tax system more regressive. Also, another concern is that I believe this bill would make it harder to protect Minnesotans from tax increases under conformity, and that's something we've been seeing in other states. Also, some concerns about the size of this bill, but I think I won't speak too much to that because I think the idea is that it could be scalable. First of all, this bill would provide the largest tax cuts, both measured in dollars and as a percentage of income, to those with the highest incomes. Some preliminary analysis we've seen from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy suggests about 2/3 of the tax cuts would go to the 20% of Minnesotans with the highest incomes. One of the things that our Minnesota Tax Incidence Study helps us understand is that while Minnesotans of all income levels pay roughly about the same share of their incomes in state and local taxes, we don't all pay that in the same way. So those who get smaller tax cuts or no benefit at all from this bill are those lower income Minnesotans who do pay a significant share of their incomes in taxes to support our public services here in Minnesota, but pay their taxes more through sales taxes and the property tax and less so through the income tax. The second issue I want to raise is that we need to be keeping in mind that the revenues that could be raised under conformity don't affect all Minnesotans equally, but instead come from certain groups of Minnesotans. I'm concerned that putting significant state resources towards cutting income tax rates would mean less is available for targeted approaches to protect Minnesotans from state tax increases as a result from the federal tax bill. The Minnesotans who would face tax increases if we just did conformity include families with children or other dependents, and seniors, people with disabilities, and families with dependents who qualify for our state's property tax refund. We believe that these everyday working people and their families and seniors and people with disabilities on fixed incomes should be a priority in this year's tax decisions. But we've seen as other states have responded to the federal tax bill, States that have done so by cutting their income tax rates, and this includes Idaho and Utah, they have failed to protect their families with children from the negative impact of conformity, and those families have seen tax increases. So I think we need to keep in mind whatever decisions that are made is that money from conformity would be paid by some Minnesotans, and we need to be thinking about, are we asking some Minnesotans to pay higher taxes to pay for tax cuts for other Minnesotans? Thank you. Those were the main points I wanted to make, and appreciate the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. And just for the record, we're trying to get some response here. I love Louisiana. It's a fine state. LSU University, you've got relatives graduated from there, so it's a great state. We love Louisiana here in the House Tax Committee. Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Kadoun, it was interesting to hear you classified a 1% across the board as being regressive in reductions. I don't know how that quite figures out. Because 1% is 1% the same. But it was interesting when you said that 2/3 of the tax cuts are going to go into the top 2% or the top richest. Wouldn't that also then, just seems to me math-wise, that would mean that they also pay 2/3 of all the state taxes? And so wouldn't that kind of be reflective of that, or am I calculating something wrong?
Ms. Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Petersburg for those questions. If we look at the tax system as a whole, if we are cutting the income tax, which is the most progressive part of the tax system, the overall effect on the tax system is to make it more regressive, also because the largest tax cuts hit on the high end. And let's see, on your second question, I'm sorry, could you repeat your second question? I want to make sure I answer it correctly.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Kadoun, before we get into that, when you have a higher tax bracket up at the top, and you are cutting 1%, they actually don't get as big a tax cut as those down below, which have a smaller tax cut. I mean, going from 4% to 3% or 5% to 4%, reducing 1% is a much higher tax cut than going from 9% to 8%. So I just want you to make sure that you understand that that's not regressive in that response. But my question was, if 2/3 of tax dollars that are being cut that you talked about is coming from the top percent, and it's 1% across the board, wouldn't that then imply that 2/3 of all the tax dollars collected are also in that top bracket?
Ms. Madden.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, Representative Petersburg. Thank you for repeating that for me. So on the first point, so if someone is in the top tax bracket, they get the benefit of the reduction in the first bracket, the second bracket, the third bracket, and the top bracket. A person who has lower income and maybe doesn't have enough income that they completely fill up the first bracket will get a smaller tax cut because they're not paying as much of their total taxes through the income tax system, but more through other taxes. On your second point, yes, it's true that those with higher incomes do pay a larger share of the total taxes paid in the state. I understand that that's roughly proportional to their share of total income in the state, so it's pretty proportional.
Person Petersburg.
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much,
Yeah,
Ms.
thank you.
Madden. We have 2 testifiers left. Let's go to Ms. Larson, and we'll go to Mr. Hickey. Thank you, Ms. Madden.
Thank you.
Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. I'm Jill Larson with the Minnesota Business Partnership. No time is short, and
Welcome
I
to
don't want to
committee.
repeat other comments, so I will try to edit my comments accordingly. We too hope that the committee will consider income tax rate reductions as they put together their federal tax conformity bill. As Representative Hertaus mentioned, the bill is scalable, and we believe that if we're going to broaden the income tax base, that the rate should be reduced. Not only does Minnesota have the fourth highest income tax rate in the country, but in the top bracket, we actually have the second highest when you look at the income level at which the rate starts. So it's something that definitely needs to be remedied. Regarding the tax incidence study, the top 10% of taxpayers in terms of household income currently pay 60% of the income tax, and that, so that's not just hitting those folks in the top bracket. This was mentioned, but it's something that's very important to our members. We hear this from our leaders a lot, is that Minnesota's income tax system currently is an impediment to recruiting talent here, especially sort of mid-level and higher-level management talent. And with the federal tax conformity bill, due in part to the loss of the cap on the SALT deduction, that problem is only going to be exacerbated. So we hope that the committee will consider reducing rates as we put together the bill. So we're not going to make an existing problem even worse. Minnesota does have a very progressive income tax system. I think we have the most progressive income tax system in the country. And so I think there's room for movement on the income tax rates. And as we all know, business taxes help make Minnesota's tax system more regressive. So that's another way to address that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Koznick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just appreciate the bill and just wanted to mention the scalability of it. House File 0905, authored by myself, is similar, and it has a lower percentage. But if the committee would consider any reductions, I'm all in favor of that.
This will be the Koznick Hertaus movement here.
And I believe Chair Davids is even on that bill.
Oh, it has a chance. Okay, please state your name and who you represent for the record, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Hickey with National Federation of Independent Business, and want to thank Representative Hertaus for proposing this bill. This bill needs to be done as part of tax conformity or maybe on another day. We are not competitive, and many of us know that. We've struggled with this issue for a long time in this state. And I think, as Representative Hertaus and I think a few others mentioned, it is pretty breathtaking that our lowest rate at 5.35% is higher than 25 other states. 16 of them have an income tax, 9 don't. And I look down the list, Illinois, very deep blue place, has a tiny bit of purple now, Mr. Chairman, but a pretty embattled place. They're hanging in there with a 3.75% top rate. Massachusetts, another very blue liberal place, has a 5.1% top rate. And so, you know, our lowest rate exceeds that, and that really is telling, and that's breathtaking. And we are really on the wrong track here. When we went from 785 to 985, that was a real wrong move, and I think we're paying the price for it. Representative Hertaus cited some of the stats. The American experiment came through, put forward about migration, and one of the stats they had from a few years ago is that Minnesota was 30th best in job growth based on federal data, and 32nd best in personal income growth. And these are concerning trends, and it's not the direction we want to be moving in. And then finally, this is such an important tax to the small business community. The vast majority of our members, you know, 90% plus pay their taxes on the individual income tax, and larger businesses are going to pass through. And I think it's a trend that's going to continue, and we are just looking very uncompetitive. So I appreciate the time you're giving this today, and hopefully we can find a way to make some progress this year through this complex tax conformity issue, or on another day. We just need to do this.
Questions for Mr. Hickey? Thank you, Mr. Hickey. With that, Representative Hertaus, if you'd like to wrap it up.
I would, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And members, even last biennium, Governor Dayton came and visited the Republican caucus and expressed his concern over wage stagnation. And this is one other way to help boost the wages of Minnesota taxpayers. And so, as I mentioned, thank you for considering the bill. This is very scalable. Whatever number we could maybe use in terms of a tax conformity bill. I've counseled with Chair Davids, and whatever the shortfall would be, he said he'd pick up the difference. So anyway,
no problem.
There we are. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hertaus. So with that, Representative Hertaus renews his motion that House File 3011 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus tax bill. Thank you, Representative Hertaus. And members, thank you for your bills today. Representative Loon, Fischer, Hertaus, and to the testifiers. I really appreciate your time. And safe travels back to Ada, Borup, home of the mighty Cougars. So with that, good government all the time. We are adjourned.